Okay, so listen to this, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm reading Eckhart, and I'm like, I need to make a video talking about what I was just reading and how it coincides with what's going on in my life right now. So, my relationship with my mom has been kind of rocky this past year, like pretty much ever since Corona started. And it really was painful for me because, of course, with having a mom, I'm like in love with her, you know? Like, this is not just a body that the body of a person, the body that belongs to a soul who carried me in their body and brought me into this world. Just thinking about that, like, I was a soul in her soul. She was a soul with a body who carried my soul in my body and birthed me into this reality and then took care of me. One thing that she's been saying recently is, I did the best I could. I did the best I could. And it's like, yeah, you did the best you could, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't good. It actually hurt, And of course, I'm not saying that like, oh, well, it wasn't enough. But it wasn't enough. And that's still affecting me to this day. So do I just give up on the relationship? No. And I was reading Eckhart and I was like, because I had a wonderful morning. I really did. I woke up around like 5, laid in my bed, rewatch the tarot readings that I get, the messages, but I feel like that's more of a private type of thing. And then I was like feeling a little overwhelmed, so I brought my yellow blanket out here and I laid it out on the living room floor. This is before the sun rose. And I just laid here face down on the ground, and I just breathed in and I breathed out, and I just received. And I was thinking, I received a thought that helped me to kind of release a bit. These past couple months I've been struggling with my confidence, but I realized it wasn't even my confidence. It was my confidence being affected by me carrying the past and what people said and what they didn't say, and how they looked at me and when they didn't look at me. And it's quite funny. So I decided, after I was laying there on the ground, I was like refreshed. I spoke to my guides and I just lay there some more. And with me receiving all of these messages telling me that my life is about to change, getting confirmation, I had a dream where I was, dealing with celebrities, and then I woke up and I Googled what did it mean, and what that dream means, trying to understand it more. And then when I spoke it out and I asked, what does this mean, and then I said, oh, does this mean that? And then I got ringing in my left ear. It was very short, very loud, and I Googled what that meant, and I was like, holy shit. And then I was scrolling through my old tarot readings, and a video that had no hashtags, nothing, popped up, and it was like, left ear ringing is your highest self telling you to pay attention. So now it's like all these angel numbers I keep seeing, and I'm like, holy shit, like, okay, it's happening. And they're telling me to believe and to listen, pay attention to the signs, let go, breathe, don't doubt yourself, so here I am doing it. But what I wanted to speak about is I just opened this book after not reading it. I kept looking at it and kept like just letting the days roll past, keep scrolling. But now today I'm like, no, I'm gonna actually listen to what my guys have been telling me to do and open the book and read it. So here I am, and I wanted to talk about what I've been reading this past like half hour. So in this chapter, he's talking about carrying the past. And so he was speaking on Zen monks, and he told a story. I'm going to summarize it, of these two monks who were walking alongside this road. It was muddy, it was just raining, and there was a lady who was wearing a kimono who didn't want to damage it. So one of the monks, he helped her, picked her up, and carried her to the other side of the road, and the two monks went on their way. Now, as they were returning to their residence, one of the monks said, "Why did you pick her up? We monks don't do that." And the other one responded, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" And when I tell you, I said, oh, Eckhart is speaking about how people carry the past with them and tend to replay it, carry anger, guilt, regret, those very negative emotions that tend to build up. And he was speaking on how when those emotions build up, they have a tendency to create an energy field or a kind of energy block that it stops you from experiencing life as the timeless, boundless, formless presence that we all are in essence. And I was like, oh my goodness, yes. And of course, me, this is how I like to experience life. I relate things back to my own life experience and the people around me. So when I was thinking of that, I was thinking of, how I would carry guilt and regret. I've been doing that, I remember, since I was even younger. I remember one time, I'm going to say 2 events, where I was probably like 10 or 11, and my cousin's, dad came over to the house. I would always spend time with her at her house. And he had this truck, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to take you guys out to the mall, take you shopping, get your nails done." And I was like, "Oh no, you go ahead. Like, no, can't. I don't want to, get in your way. Spend time with your dad." And they were like, "Are you sure? Like, please come." And I was like, "No," because I had learned that from my mom. She was always putting herself on the back burner, always not wanting to be a bother or a burden, And so I ended up, while she was going out having fun, I was staying there, and I was regretting not doing that. And they wanted me to go. And it's like, I should have went. And, I still think about that now, or how I have, regrets with my tattoos. I felt like I'm unattractive because I have these tattoos, and they're not, good tattoos by the world standards. But I could say that's the world standards. I have people tell me that they absolutely love my tattoos. They think they're so cool. And then I have people tell me, "What the fuck is that? Yo, look at her tattoos." And so I realized that I was also thinking about that earlier when I was laying on the floor. Is like, when I look at myself through the eyes of other people, I will never be enough. I will never be enough. I will never be perfect enough. I will never be pretty enough. I will never be smart enough. I will never be amazing enough, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It truly is. And the only beholder I should be looking for is my eyes. I should only be looking for my approval. It starts inwards and it expands outwards. You want to bring change, start with the man in the mirror, and so that once I realized that, man, I feel like my life is about to change, that it really does start with me. But anyway, I wanted to continue. I lined, the pages. Um, so he was also speaking about, the individual and collective energy fields and the pain body. The pain body is where all of these negative emotions kind of build up and they live in our body. There's the physical body, then the egoic body, the mind. Then there's he said, the pain body, which is, a result of negative emotions that aren't healthily resolved and understood and felt and, processed correctly. And they live dormantly, and then they sometimes come out and have an effect on the person and then the people around them. But anyway, any negative emotion that is not fully faced and seen for what it is in the moment when it arises does not completely dissolve. It leaves behind a remnant of pain. Children in particular find strong negative emotions too overwhelming to cope with and tend to try to feel them and tend to try not to feel them. But in the absence of a fully conscious adult who can, help them deal and understand with those emotions directly, it results in that defense mechanism remaining, and then, the child becomes an adult. And, that's emotional immaturity or emotional unawareness. You're not in tune with your emotions, you don't know how to process them, or you try to avoid them. And of course, with my mom having her traumas as a child, especially having an unhealthy relationship with her mom, which is still unhealthy, she prefers to just not do the emotional stuff. She doesn't want to talk about emotions. She doesn't want to process them. She doesn't want to have any, she just wants to pretend. She just wants to pave it over and just act like it never happened. And I'm the complete opposite. I need to talk it out. I need to get an understanding. I need to hear your side. I need to explain myself. I need to express. And so just recently I had a conversation with my mom where I realized that she does not care. She does not want to change. I can be as eloquent, as wise and kind and open and honest and expressive as possible, and that won't change her. And so I think that that's also something that she learned from her mom, where grandma doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants to keep it light. And now my mom is doing the same thing with me. And I'm like, fuck that. I ain't doing that shit. I'm not about to fake it. And so now I'm to this point where I don't even want to talk to my mom because it's just, I don't know how I feel yet. I don't know how I want to interact with her yet. So I'm going to reflect and I'm going to keep reading and I'm going to determine because, and I'll read the next sentence, right? So he said, give me one moment. He said that unfortunately the early defense mechanism, which he's referring to children who, when they don't deal with their emotions, they just tend to try not to feel them. That defense mechanism usually remains in place when the child becomes an adult. The emotion still lives in him or her unrecognized and manifests indirectly. For example, as anger, anxiety, outbursts of violence, or even a physical illness. In some cases, it interferes or sabotages every intimate relationship. And man, now that I can look at it and see my mom's relationship with my grandma and how she interacts with me now, I don't want this pattern to continue. So y'all keep telling me I'm the generational chain breaker. What's up? Getting emotionally aware. Yeah, I mean, definitely it interfered with my intimate relationships. I had this fear of being a burden. And so I also became detached from my feminine energy, where I felt like with men, especially, I put myself on the back burner. I wouldn't say what I wanted. I wouldn't speak up because I didn't want to be like a bitch. I didn't want to be not the cool girl, not the easy, you know, chill, laid back, what's up, you know, and it's like I was too chilled and laid back. I didn't let them know what I wanted, so I just accepted what was given. Like, what the fuck? No. And, you know, also, my mom's unhealed trauma from when she was a child is now affecting her relationship with me. And so I'm like, oh no, skirt that. This is not going to affect my relationship with anybody else. I'm healing. It's healthy over here, you know? And so that's one thing I had to realize is that creating boundaries is like, yes, you're my mom. Yes, I came to this reality through your body. However, I have to put myself first. Give me 1 minute. I want to make sure this is recording. And we're back. But yeah, like, I just had to realize, no. I had to tell her multiple times, watch your tone. I don't like the way that you're speaking to me. Can you please change your tone of voice? The way that you're acting is causing, you know, a reaction inside of me. And she kept not listening. And I'm like, why would you speak to me that way when I wouldn't speak to you that way? And also when I'm going to continue reading, right, so I can apply this. They were talking about how the pain body is an addiction to unhappiness. And I'm going to read this excerpt. It may be shocking when you realize for the first time that there is something within you that periodically seeks emotional negativity. It seeks unhappiness. Woo child. Man. When I was speaking to my mom recently, I was speaking very peacefully. I spoke softly and calmly, which she said that she preferred. But she was not speaking to me that way. Her voice was raised. Her tone was very harsh. Her facial expressions were full of anger and tension. She was always speaking as if she was under attack. And then when I called her out on that and I said, why are you speaking to me this way? I haven't done anything to provoke that type of emotion. And then I realized that's how she feels inside. And it's showing. It's showing. You know, and I'm not saying this like I'm superior, but even I know that within my inner self. I understand that. I'm not speaking out of superiority. I don't have that complex. I was listening to a TED Talk and I took notes on it, where I think I'm going to make a video about that as well, where a lady was speaking about a superiority complex, an interiority complex, and then an inferiority complex. Now, the superiority and the inferiority complexes are a direct result of ego, which is something that each and every human possesses. Now, the ego can be negative or positive depending on the balance of it and where your mental state is. However, the superiority complex is where you feel that you walk in a room and you're the best person there. Everybody else is below you. And inferiority complex is where you feel like you're the absolute worst person. You don't want to be noticed at all. Where superiority wants to be noticed. It needs to be noticed. It feeds off the energy of others. Whereas this inferiority one needs others to be there to take attention away from themselves because they feel inferior. But the interiority complex is where you just are. You just walk in a room and you just are. You know who you are. And so you don't need anybody outside of yourself. And so that's what I was thinking of when my mom was speaking. She was speaking out of feeling inferior, where she felt attacked. She felt like she needed to explain and she kept speaking about how she feels nobody listens to her, so she doesn't want to express how she feels, and that she'd rather just sit there and take it when other people are, you know, speaking not calmly. But it's like the only person that's not speaking calmly here was her. So that's where I wanted to relate this back, is when he said that it may be shocking when you realize for the first time that there is something within you that periodically seeks emotional negativity. It seeks unhappiness. You need even more awareness to see it, to see it in yourself than to recognize it in another person. That's what I was saying. I definitely see it in myself, especially in my past relationships. I just recently met this guy who's like everything I could ever want. And I pushed him away out of fear of me being neglected or ignored, or him becoming bored of me, because I've experienced that in my past relationships, especially the most recent one where I've spent the last year healing and recovering and learning to love and appreciate myself for the wonderful being that I was way before I even met him, you know? And so that's why I wanted to relate. I just wanted to say this before I end this, is that in some cases it interferes or sabotages every intimate relationship. Now that I'm able to look back and reflect, that's definitely the case. My fear of being unwanted or not being good enough or unaccepted affected the present one and the present ones as well. But like I said, we're on our healing girl shit. Bye.